All right, let's talk about something that can feel like a giant tangled knot. Crypto regulation. It seems complicated, I know, but stick with me and I promise we can pull on just the right threads to make sense of it all.
So the big question right out of the gate is, why is this so hard? I mean, why can't governments just take the rulebook they already have and apply it to this new tech? Well, here's the thing. Crypto is this weird hybrid. On one hand, it does stuff that regulators have seen for centuries, payments, investments, lending. But on the other hand, it's built on technology that is totally new. So regulators try to shove this new, weirdly shaped thing into old, familiar boxes, and as you can probably guess, it doesn't always fit.
To really get a handle on how governments are grappling with this, it helps to think of it as a journey. It turns out most countries follow a surprisingly similar path as they wrap their heads around crypto. And that journey, it almost always happens in 3 distinct phases. First, they go after the low-hanging fruit, crime and taxes. Then they shift their focus to protecting everyday people. And finally, they zoom way out to make sure the whole financial system is safe. So let's walk through each one. Okay, phase 1, crime and taxes. This is pretty much always the first stop on the journey, and for a very good reason.
In the early days, the concerns were super straightforward. First, stop people from using this new money for illegal stuff. And second, make absolutely sure that if someone gets rich off of it, the government gets its piece of the pie. Now, when we talk about crime, you see these massive, splashy numbers get thrown around. Like this one. In 2024, an estimated $40 billion in crypto was linked to illicit activity. That sounds absolutely huge, right? But, and this is a really big but, that $40 billion, it only represents about 0.14% of all crypto transactions, a teeny tiny fraction. And just to put that into context, the estimated amount of crime in the traditional financial system, we're talking good old-fashioned cash and bank transfers, is over $3 trillion a year. So yeah, crypto crime is a real issue that needs to be tackled, but it's a very, very small slice of a much bigger problem. And of course, wherever there's profit, tax collectors are not far behind. Way back in 2014, the U.S. tax agency, the IRS, made a key decision. It said crypto is property. Now, that might sound boring, but it's huge. It means that every time you sell it, trade it, or even use it to buy a coffee, that could be a taxable event. So when prices went to the moon in 2017 and again in 2021, governments suddenly realized there was a massive pile of potential tax money they just couldn't ignore. This all leads us right into the second phase, protecting the public. Because once crypto went from a niche hobby to a mainstream investment, the whole game changed. I mean, when you have millions of ordinary people putting their savings into this stuff, regulators just can't stick their heads in the sand anymore. The risk of people getting hurt by scams, fraud, or just wild market swings became way too big to ignore. So they started building guardrails. The goal here was to take what everyone was calling the Wild West of crypto and make it a safer space for the average person to be in without, losing their shirt. And these guardrails came in a few main flavors. First, basic consumer protection rules to shield regular folks. Second, market integrity rules. A lot of these were borrowed straight from the stock market to stop things like price manipulation. And third, they started requiring crypto exchanges to get licenses and actually register with the government, forcing them to play by a set of rules. And that brings us to the final and, frankly, the biggest phase of this regulatory journey, preventing a full-blown financial crisis. As the crypto market ballooned into the trillions of dollars, a brand new, much scarier question started keeping regulators up at night. Could a massive crash in crypto actually trigger a domino effect and take down parts of the traditional economy with it? This is what they call financial stability risk, and it's what global groups like the Financial Stability Board are now watching like a hawk. Now, how countries are actually doing this really varies. You've got the European Union, which went for a single comprehensive rulebook for all 27 of its countries. It's called MiCA. And then you have the United States, which has what everybody calls a patchwork approach. You've got all these different rules from different agencies at both the state and the federal level, and it creates this really complex and sometimes confusing map. So, after this whole 3-phase journey, we arrive at the central challenge that every single regulator on the planet is facing today: a massive global balancing act. And this is a really crucial point. For most of the world, this isn't a simple thumbs up or thumbs down on crypto. It's not about banning it versus letting it run wild. It is all about finding this incredibly delicate equilibrium between a bunch of competing goals. Think about it. They're constantly trying to weigh these massive trade-offs. How do you encourage all this cool new innovation without letting risk run out of control? How do you use this tech to bring more people into the financial system without threatening the stability of that same system? And how do you protect consumers from getting hurt while still letting new companies get off the ground and raise money? It's tough. So in reality, it's not just one simple seesaw. It's way more complicated. It's like trying to balance 3 or 4 or 5 of them all at the same time, where pushing down on one can make another one fly up unexpectedly. Through all this complexity, regulators do have a kind of North Star, a guiding principle they keep coming back to. Same activity, same risk, same regulation. The idea is basically to ignore the fancy new technology for a second. They don't care if a loan happens at a bank or on a DeFi protocol. If it walks like a loan and talks like a loan and has the same risks as a loan, then it should be regulated like one. Which leaves us with a big open question for the future. This technology is moving at light speed. It's changing and evolving every single day. So the ultimate challenge is this. In a world that never stands still, can the planet's regulators actually manage to keep their balance?